This is my final YouTube video of 2020. I'm filming this on New Year's Eve 2020, prepping for this awesome year to come, 2021, and that's what this video is all about. I'm gonna give you guys 7 things that you can do to make this next year awesome as a guitarist and a musician. And in fact, what we're gonna talk about today is really applicable to anything that you wanna do with your life. Number 1, I want you to write down 1 to 3 goals that you want to accomplish in 2021. Now, these need to be like major things. Don't write stuff down like, well, I just want to become a better guitar player. That's not really a goal. I want you to think in terms of, hey, you know what? I want to release a song this year. I want to release my first single this year. Or maybe you're a new guitar player and you're like, I just want to be able to play a song that I love all the way through without stopping. That's a good goal to have. If you're like myself and you're a working musician or you're a full-time musician, maybe your goal is to release an album this next coming year. Or maybe you want to play a specific amount of gigs, or maybe a particular venue that you've been trying to get into. These are the things I'm talking about though. Make a really major goal and write that down, 1 to 3 of them. I would say don't do more than 5. Now, if you're a full-time musician, maybe you have 4 or 5 major goals, but we're not trying to boil the ocean. What we want to do here is we want to pinpoint some major things that we want to accomplish this next year, because what we're about to do next is going to get deep into planning out how to accomplish those things. So grab a notebook. If you're like me, you're old school, I still write things down. I do things in spreadsheets and all that stuff too, and I'll share a little bit of that with you, but I like to write these goals, start out by writing them on paper. Something magical happens when you physically write something down. So get a notebook, get a piece of paper, and write down those 1 to 3, no more than 5 major accomplishments that you want to do for 2021, or for any year if you happen to be watching this later in years to come. Your goals, those goals that you just wrote down, those goals are absolutely worthless if you don't have a plan and strategy to accomplish those goals. This was my major failure and setback for 2020. I actually did number 1, the thing we just talked about. I actually wrote some goals down on a piece of paper. I think I even put them in a spreadsheet. But what I did not do, I didn't write out a clear plan and strategy on how I'm going to accomplish these things. I just kind of like let them sit out there as a dream. And if that's all you do is just write them down, writing them down is important. That is the first step, and I hope you took that step. If you didn't, pause video, write down those goals, okay? I'm serious about this, and then come back and watch. I kind of knew what I would do to like move towards those goals, but I did not have a clear plan or strategy that I had written out to accomplish those goals. And this is something I have spent this entire week doing, the last week of 2020. I have been working hard at writing out a plan and writing out some strategies that will help me achieve these goals that I'm going after in 2021. This is a spreadsheet here that I just created. I use Apple, so this is Apple, what is this, Apple Numbers. Now, I've got 2 platforms here. I've got my music platform. I think most of you guys know I also run a blog that I own called themuscleprogram.com. I've got some things I want to accomplish for that as well. I've got those down here, and then I've actually got some strategies written out here as well. And these are just the things that I'm going to implement to accomplish these big goals that I have. And you've got to have that plan. You've got to have that strategy to achieve these goals. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen, I promise you. So spend some time, open up a spreadsheet, like if you use Excel, some of you might use the Google, I forget what it's called, the Google Docs or whatever, or if you want to use Apple, I'm using, again, Apple, I always forget the name of this program, Apple Numbers. Doesn't really matter what you use. You don't even really have to mimic what I'm doing. just put something down in some sort of document and save that in your cloud. Make like a business folder or something like that, or musician folder, whatever you want to do. But guys, write this stuff down, plan this out, type it out in a spreadsheet or some kind of document. That way you can review it. Now, the planning and strategy, I know I briefly showed you my spreadsheet. I may come back to this at some point and do a separate video on this if you guys are interested. So let me know in the comments. I'd be happy to come back and make a video on that. Number 3 is your daily prioritization. So you need to make sure that everything you're doing on a daily basis aligns with what we just talked about, with your plan and your strategy, which is supporting and helping you accomplish the goals that we wrote down. So now you see how all of this flows together. And I think, going back to number 2, your plan and strategy, I think it's important to look at that really every day, but at least once a week. And then I want you to plan out your week, the things that you're going to do on a daily basis, and make sure those tasks align with that plan and strategy that you wrote out, that you have saved in that document. Now, the daily stuff, this is where I go kind of old school again, okay? I go from electronic to pen and paper. I like to keep a physical calendar. My wife actually bought me this calendar here, and she bought me one for 2020, and I've got a new one for 2021, which I will be writing my daily task for next week. I'll be doing that over the weekend. I usually schedule Sundays to write out everything I'm going to do that following week. And everything I schedule in that planner will, again, it will be based on the planning and strategy document that I've been working so hard to create this week to make sure that everything's aligned with my goals. Number 4, and this kind of ties in with number 3 that we just talked about, the daily prioritization, and this is where another part where I failed miserably. Do the hard stuff first, okay? The hardest thing you have to do that day, the toughest thing that you know you need to accomplish and work on for that day, make that the first priority. It goes back to prioritization. Now, this, of course, is applicable to pretty much everything that you do in life, especially if you have to go to like a day job or regular job. The first thing you start doing in the day is going to get the majority of your energy and focus. That's just fact. I don't even care if you're Superman or Superwoman. You can only put so much energy into something each and every day. And if every day you start your work day or your music day, because I know not all of you are, I know most of you probably aren't full-time musicians watching this, but I know a lot of you are part-time musicians. You have a band or you're working on music that you plan to release. And I want you to treat, just a side note, I want you to treat this stuff like a business, even if you do this part-time. Even if you do it for fun now, but you've got that yearning deep inside to do something more with it. I want you to start thinking of your music as a business, okay? And start pursuing it as such. So, work on the hard stuff first, okay? And again, this rolls into everything in life. If you put energy and focus into that hard thing first, the toughest part of your day first, and this is why I work out in the early mornings as well, get that out of the way, right? But if you pour your energy into that tough thing, that work-related tough thing first, then the other stuff that you have to do after that that's kind of easy, it's still going to be easy. But if you do all the easy stuff first, then you kind of zap your energy for the hard thing later, and it's either not going to get done because you end up pushing it off, right? Or you won't be able to put as much quality focus and energy into that tough project that you have. So do the hard stuff first. Now, the hard stuff for me, I'll share this real quick before we move on to number 5. The hard stuff for me for 2020, where I failed, was I had planned, well, I didn't actually write this out. Remember, I kind of failed at planning last year, but I aspired to release a new album in 2020. And this is kind of a little secret thing. I was really hoping to have this really awesome metal guitar course that I'm creating for you guys. I had hoped to have both of those things released this month that I'm filming this video, December 2020. Neither one of those projects are finished, okay? And rest assured, those items are in my planning and strategies document. They will be scheduled and prioritized in my daily tasks, and I will be working on those 2 items first every day for the next probably several weeks until I accomplish them. Do the hard stuff first. Number 5, this is something I did not do enough of in 2020. Reward yourself when you hit certain milestones, okay? Now, one little thing that I just recently started doing, and I'm breaking my rule today, and this is just like a really simple thing, but trust me, this helps you up here in the head tremendously, okay? Most of 2020, I would fix a cup of coffee to start my workday. I'm like, well, I gotta have my coffee first. So what I started doing recently is I don't allow myself to have a cup of coffee until I finish that first task that I have scheduled for that day. Now, sometimes that task may be 30 minutes, sometimes it might take me 2 hours, like this video. By the time I get through finishing this video and doing the editing and all that good stuff and getting it posted on YouTube, a good 3 hours will have gone by. Normally, I would wait until after that first task of the day is completed, then I reward myself with a cup of coffee. By the way, you can get this mug and this shirt. This is like my quick promotion here on my shop. There's a link to that in the description. Now, a lot of times at the end of the week, sometimes on Thursday, if the week was just really awesome and I accomplished some really great things and hit some major milestones, I may allow myself to have a craft beer like in the middle of the day on Thursday, but oftentimes I'll save that until Friday as long as I feel good about my week. Now, if I have been kind of lazy that week, which we all have those weeks, and I hope I have less of those in 2021, I may not reward myself with a craft beer. I may say, Jason, dude, look, man, you don't deserve it. You wait until Saturday or something like that. But it's extremely important to reward yourself. You don't want to just become a workaholic and just that's all you do and you're constantly beating yourself up all the time, just trying to get stuff done and just hounding yourself. Look, there's a time for that, but you also need to have that reward and just kind of celebrate those mini successes, because those mini successes, they build up into reaching your ultimate goals for that year. Reward yourself. After I finish this video, I'm gonna make another cup of coffee, and I'll probably have some beer around 3 o'clock as well. Number 6, do not do this in 2021. I caught myself doing this in 2020, and don't compare yourself to other guitarists. Don't compare yourself to other singers, other musicians. Don't compare yourself to anyone. This is the beauty of being a musician. I don't like competition in general. I know some of you are competitive, and I'm not saying that's bad. That's great. That's fine. Me, myself, and I think a lot of musicians in general, because we are kind of artsy, a lot of us aren't competitive. And we tend to sometimes compare ourselves to other people, especially us guitar players and vocalists for that matter as well. I sing, so that's why I say that. I caught myself from time to time comparing myself to really amazing guitarists, especially when you're scrolling through the internet on social media. I mean, there's just some people that can, look, they're just better than me. I mean, I consider myself a great guitarist and all that, but some of these people I hear, it's like, oh my God, and that can get you down sometimes if you start to dwell on that, okay? And I know some of you are in the beginning stages of playing and you really may struggle with this. I'm just telling you, don't, okay? The only battle is you against you. That's your battle, okay? That's the person that you're competing against. You're competing today against the person that you were yesterday or you were last week. And this is why it's so important for us to go through all of these steps that we've talked about up to this point. Your goals, your planning, your strategy, okay? Your prioritization, doing the hard stuff first. These are the things that if you're consistent with all of these things that we talked about, they are going to make you better. And you don't have to compare yourself to anyone else, because along with getting better as a guitarist, as a singer, as a songwriter, as whatever you're doing, what's also happening that you don't even realize is you're developing your own signature sound. You're developing your own signature way of doing things. And this is what makes you a true musician, okay? This is what makes you truly great. I wish I had like an easy hack for you, but I don't have a hack. It's just simply just don't do it. Just focus on you. Focus on your progression, and your time will come, whether it's, you know, getting better at guitar, whether it's taking your band to the next level, or maybe you have a studio, you're recording for other people, you need more clients. Your time will come. Be consistent with what you're doing, and again, have it well thought out, have that plan, have that strategy. Everything that we've talked about up to this point is just so powerful, and develop your own signature way of doing things. Don't worry about anybody else. Focus on you in 2021 and every year to come. The final thing I want you to focus on, number 7, and stay tuned after this, because again, I'm going to share some really cool stuff that happened in 2020 with you guys, and I'm going to show you kind of how to turn the negativity of 2020 into something extremely positive next, so hang around. But anyway, number 7. Oh, that's it. I had to look at my notes because I totally forgot what it was. That's why I write stuff down. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. Man, you're talking about like defying what we just talked about, comparing yourself to other people. When you start to push yourself out of your own comfort zone, you don't have to worry about comparing yourself to anyone, because you're going to feel like that Van Halen song, standing on top of the world, for unlawful carnal knowledge. There's something really spiritual and magical that happens when you push yourself out of your comfort zone to that next level of whatever it is. And then when you're just out there doing something that you're like, man, I was kind of afraid to do this. I didn't know how this would work out, but you just dove into it and tried it anyway. One of the things I did this year was, and this really probably didn't sound like a big deal because I did it so much in the past, but I started playing out this year into even 2020, even with all the stuff going on. Towards the end of the year, some of the venues started opening back up. And even though I'm not a big fan of doing cover songs, I just felt this strong desire to get out and play live. I'm a solo musician here. I'm a solo artist, so I don't really have a band to back me up to play my metal stuff live. So I'm like, well, I can play acoustic stuff live. And I just kind of threw myself out there, and I learned like 30 or 40 songs that I'd probably never really played on acoustic or sang on acoustic before. And on top of that, I haven't sang and played acoustic live like this out in, again, a long time. But I just threw myself out there, and the first gig I got was actually a pretty big gig. When I rolled up, I'm like, holy crap, this place is packed. Now, they weren't there to see me. It was a winery, which I'm actually going to be playing at the day after New Year's in 2021. If you're on my Instagram and Facebook, you've probably seen me post pictures of that. I started putting myself out there, and now I'm playing out, just doing acoustic and singing pretty much on a regular basis 2 or 3 times a month. So I want to encourage you on that note to really push yourself out of your comfort zone. Now, if you're a beginner guitarist and you're still watching this, maybe out of your comfort zone is playing and singing maybe a full song and just in front of some people, in front of a small crowd of friends or even your family or something like that. If you're someone that's wanting to say, record a song and put that song out there, learn the process of doing that. And you know what? Just do it. Again, go back through all the steps we just went over, make a goal, put it in your planning and strategy document and so forth, prioritize it, and work on that, and push yourself to do it. So I want you to really push yourself this year. I want you to push yourself to get out of that comfort zone and just get out there and do the thing that you love to do the most. A lot of things that happened in 2020, especially if you're watching the media, which I think most of us couldn't help but watch it because it was in our face the whole time. It was doom and gloom. So I wanted to share a couple of things that went really well with me this year. And as I'm doing this, I want you to think of some things that went really well for you, even if it's just one thing. I'm sure you can think of at least one thing that happened that was awesome in 2020. So the first thing that happened to me, and I'll make this short because I know we've been going for a while here. The first thing that happened to me is I got laid off from my corporate job. Now I know what you're thinking. You're like, Jason, dude, I think that's kind of like in the doom and gloom section, not really the cool stuff that happened. But no, here's the thing. In early 2019, I told my boss, and I had a corporate job. I worked for a really large corporation for many, many years. And I told my boss, I'm like, look, I know the company does cuts every year. If they happen to do cuts, this upcoming year, then pick me. And of course, she's like, huh? Are you sure? You didn't drink before work today, did you? Because most people are like, they're freaking out about losing their job. I'm like, no, I'm absolutely ready. Here's the thing. I knew the company would give me a small package to go away, and I just couldn't do it anymore. I was ready to just be on my own. So here I am. I actually officially walked away from the job in the beginning of 2020, and I am now a full-time, I don't even know what you call me. I know everybody thinks being an entrepreneur is cool these days. Is a buttload of work. I love what I do, and it's not that I just do one thing either. It's not like I'm, making a full-time income off YouTube. Not today anyway. I'm not even close to that. I do have multiple things going on with my music, with YouTube, also with the fitness blog I told you about earlier, and many little things that are associated with all of those. So I work very hard. I work more hours and harder than I've ever worked in my entire life. But I made the jump, and I think that it was, well, I know it was just a blessing that I was able to make that happen in the way that it happened. So that was one good thing that happened to me. The other good thing, my YouTube channel, man, I finally hit 10,000 subs back in June of 2020. Now you look at the subs I have now, and we're way beyond that. So it took me 10 years though. I started this channel in 2010. It took me 10 years to get 10,000 subs. You saw all these other guitarists on YouTube just blowing me out of the water, and wow. But here's the thing. Longevity, there's something to be said about longevity. You have to understand, and I want to encourage you, you have to understand that, that overnight success thing that is kind of thrown in our face all the time, that's just not the reality for most people, and it certainly hasn't been for me. And I'm still not there, wherever there is, but I am making progress every single day, going through these strategies. And I know I keep going back to this, guys, but it's so important, going through everything that we've talked about, and especially just really bunkering down on that this year in 2021, this upcoming year. I'm just committed, and you have to be committed to what you're doing. You have to be committed to your goals, and you have to be committed to the point to where no matter what, you're not giving up, you're not giving in, you're not throwing in the towel. You will keep progressing, you will keep pushing, and you will adapt to change, because change will happen, and you will always find a way to either go through the mountain or around it, or you just move the mountain out of the way. You are determined and committed to make it. So those are the two big things that really happened to me this year. I did get a lot of work done on the album that I will be releasing in 2021. It's called Overcometh. I'm looking at a March release date for that because I need time to kind of prep for it. I still haven't finished recording the album yet. I've got some guitar work to do on it. I've also got some vocal work to do, but I plan to have all that done in January and then really start doing the pre-promotions and all that stuff, and I hope to release it in March. I also have a good bit of the guitar course that I want to release for you guys. That's going to be coming out as well. Probably, I hope to get that out in January in 2021, so I'm really aiming for that. So I just wanted to encourage you guys. That's what this video is all about. In fact, there are timestamps to every section of this video. Everything, the 7 things that we went over in this little last piece here, there are timestamps to where each section starts in the YouTube description. So if you need to go back through and watch some of these again, because there's some points that maybe resonated in a certain way today, but they may resonate differently with you next week or a month from now or whatever. So, keep this video handy and go back and rewatch those pieces. And let me know in the YouTube comments at least 1, if not 3, of your major goals that you will, not you want to get, but you will get accomplished in 2021. And I also want you to tell me that, say, hey Jason, I am also committed to these goals, and I am writing out a plan and strategy to accomplish these goals as well. So put that in the comments. And guys, I hope you have an awesome new year. Again, I'm putting this out there on New Year's Eve 2020, and I really hope the best for all of us in 2021. As always, keep it metal.